Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Mordechai. 4 sponsors today. By Zev Roth, who's in the house today. Shkoyach for coming. Idis Bas Shaul on her yortzeit. Shoma should have an aliyah. By Mordechai Sapoznick. Lzaicher nishmas. R Binyomin. You still didn't get the resume. We don't know what we're doing here with this whole shidduch initiative.
Don't send me the resume. I don't want it.
Lzaicher nishmas R Binyomin ben R Yitzchok Meir Statfeld. Zichron Lebracha may be a meiletz yosher for his entire mishpacha and for all of Klal Yisroel. Listen to this. Very interesting. I got an email from Mordechai. He heard that we wanted a printer. No. So he said, "How much is the printer?" I told him we're getting the state of the art. Best. We only do the bet. $2,000. So okay. I want to be mishtatev in half of the printer. It's beautiful zach. So I don't know what chat. Like every print that we do, like different colors are his. We have to figure it out.
The right side of the paper.
It's not the black. It's the color. He's a colorful guy. He's an artist. By Mutty Grunberg, known as OU user. If you're on Zoom, Refuah Shelayma for Mלכה בתשבע bas תמימה Leah. He's like top guy in OU. What is he? Dovi? Who's Dovi? Mutty's son, Dovi from Fishers. The daughter is very sick. Mלכה בתשבע bas תמימה Leah. It's a COVID thing? No. Refuah Shelayma, unbelievable. And by Shmuel Eliwatt. We all know Shmuel. Is he in the house? Here he is. He's in the house. Commemorating the 10-year anniversary of a successful brain surgery to remove a benign tumor. You hear this, Rabbi? I didn't know this. I didn't know this about you. Once they were in there, they planted like something good in it. That's why he's such a genius. And they took something. No, I know you differently. I don't know if you remember, there was once a ma'aseh, somebody wrote in from America that he knows of a guy in Kiryat Sefer who would love to watch the shir, but he doesn't have internet, he doesn't know how to do anything. And Shmuel was right after shir, got in his car, drove to Kiryat, set him up. It was unbelievable. That was maybe that was the beginning of the whole chesed initiative thing, but okay, it was one of the first ones. He's available to anybody seeking advice or chizuk who's going through a similar situation. Unreal, wow. It's kind of a long email, but it's a good one. It hits all the points. He didn't learn for 30 years, the whole zach, but it's a good one. Raveli, this is from Eitan Merwis. There's some surprises here. I've been a daily All Daf listener since you started Pesachim. All Daf is an app. It's the OU app, talking about the OU user. So we're on OU, on All Daf. It's gewaldig. I heard your appeal today for emails. So I decided to compose something. Geschmack, keep on going, keep on sending. I first want to reserve sponsorship for the 4th of Nisan. That'll be the 1-year anniversary of my Tchias HaMesim. It has been a 1-year journey of physical and spiritual growth. On Friday, 3/15 of last year, I was admitted to Inglewood Hospital with COVID pneumonia, despite the angel-like care of my doctor, Dr. Joey Shatskis. Now I'm mentioning, the reason why I'm reading this is also because of this. I received just yesterday 2 emails. What is going on with Dr. Joey's wife? Remember that woman? We don't know. We don't have if anybody has an update. She was in a coma, very young woman. Remember, we did a lot of Tehillim, the whole thing. Okay, my condition deteriorated quickly. Motzei Shabbos, I called my family, literally saying goodbye. That night, my son Yehuda, who's at Reshit, the captain of the TABC basketball team, basketball, started something I've never heard of, a Tehillim WhatsApp chat. I thought Daily Tehillim was for something women just do. Yehuda's team, his class, his family, friends joined, saying Tehillim for me. Sunday there were 1,000 people. Sunday morning, Dr. Joe told me I needed to be transferred to the respiratory floor and put me on a ventilator. Put on a ventilator. Didn't do it yet. That's what he needed to do. I wasn't breathing and my temperature was 104. At noon, a miracle occurred. I took my first deep breath in days. An hour later, I broke into a drenching sweat and my fever was gone. I called my wife and Dr. Joe. We cried together. Because Dr. Joey said I was the first patient at that serious state to not get worse, but to get better. Tehillim. At the time, I didn't know 1,000 people were saying Tehillim for me. I also didn't, I forgot what there's a crazy number of people that go on ventilators. It's really bad. What is 5% survive? What is it? Very, very low. Crazy. The BMT Chevra from 83, 84 started a separate chat and daily Zooms. The Refuah Tehillim group of 80 continued for more than 6 months. The past 6 months, we still say Tehillim together every Sunday. I graduated YU in 87. I've learned more Gemara with you in the past 2 months than I have in the 35 years cumulatively. Is that what you're saying? Something like that. Cumulatively. No, not today. You're more than an excellent teacher. You make learning a pleasure rather than a burden. When I see random people in Teaneck, where I live, or in Houston, where I work, people ask me how I'm doing. I say 110% better. You share in that bonus. I learned many lessons from the near-death experience and Bli Neder. Hope to continue growing and learning. Chesed, striving to make a positive contribution for the short time I have on this earth. We're all here, very short. I just have something I want to share with you, a machshava. I think it's very simple to everybody, but it just occurred to me yesterday. The mashal I was thinking about is, who lives longer, a turtle or a horse? A turtle, 200 years they could live. No, a horse lives longer. You know why? Because a turtle, to get from here to my house, takes him a year. So what did he accomplish in 200 years? Nothing. He walked 2 miles in 200 years. A horse could go from here to Africa in 2 days.
But the turtle won the race.
Who lived longer, the Arizal or me? The Arizal was nifter at 38 years old. But what did the Arizal accomplish in 38 years? So it's not about years, it's about what you accomplish. So I think everybody thought about that one. It just occurred to me, like I put it together, like, it's about what you accomplish. It's not about the years. It's the echos. It's the journey, not the destination. Okay. Kitzer, I plan to dedicate the 4th of Nisan sponsors. Won't be as wordy. Whew! To Refuah of Shir Bat Devor Leah, Shir Shatzkes, and my sister, Anina Malka Bat Hila Hinda. May you continue to enhance the lives of so many through your daily daf classes, and may we see a Refuah for all Cholei Yisrael. Amen. Eitan Merwas. Yishkoyach Eitan. Keep those emails coming. Today's daf Tzadik Vav. It's Tainus Esther. And we are holding the last line on daf Tzadik Hey. Boi Rav Yosef. Continuing with these questions about Tumah Hutra, when the large amount of Klal Yisroel, the roy of Klal Yisroel, are Tmeim, and they're permitted to bring the Korban Pesach, do other laws change? Dachagu Tmei Mesim, v'achlu Emurei Pesach haba b'tumah. What happens if they eat the Emurim? These are the Emurim. This is supposed to go on the Mizbeach. These parts, the fats, the kidney. They went ahead and they ate these betumah. Now, of course, this is usher to eat. The question is, do you get kares? Typically, you get kares for eating it betumah. Do we say that the tumah dissipated for all things, even things that are not part of the Korban Pesach, for you? The tumah goes away for the Korban Pesach. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a heter. You're tamei, most Klal Yisrael, go ahead and eat. But this is not something you're supposed to eat anyway. So maybe the tumor remains on it. What would you say? If somebody were to ask you the question, you would probably say, well, what's the connection? And the answer is, there's a connection. That's why the Gemara asks it. Mao, mid ishtri tumas basar, ishtri nami tumas emurim. Maybe this whole heter of tumah also applies to the emurim. Perhaps not, and that's what we would want to say. How do I know the whole concept of tumah when it comes to the sacrificial, is that the word? The emurim, let's just go with the emurim, those parts. You only know the whole idea from the tumas basar. The chsiv asher l'Hashem, l'rabbis is emurim, it's a riboy. Says Rava, unbelievable. When am I over on kares? When do I get kares for eating the emurim? When the basar has an isser. But since the basar doesn't have an isser, because I removed that isser of tumah, because roiv Klal Yisrael is tamei, there is no isser kares, he says. I'll give you a few seconds to catch up to see if I made a mistake over there. Oh, he's explaining this one. Okay. I see him looking inside. I got nervous. That's usually when he pops up. No water today. No bracha. Ay, ay, ay. Boy, Reb Zera. Ey Murei Pesach Mitzrayim Heichak Derinu. Rabbi Sai, the first carbon Pesach, they left Mitzrayim. What happened to all these guys? What did they do with this? There's no Mizbeach. Where do you put it? They're running. It's in the desert. You're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe this, Rabbi Sai. Today's Tanis Esther. Oh, yeah, Baya. Uman lemalon deloy whiskey. Avod. I mean, shvisky. First time in Shas. Maybe, I didn't look it up. I don't remember this word anywhere. Shvisky. All of a sudden today, Purim. It's a Purim word. Who said... I don't see the whiskey. You see ski. I see whiskey. Wherever I look, I see whiskey. How do you know that they didn't take it and put it on a skewer and roast it? Meaning what? So they ate it or they didn't eat it? What happened over here? Rabbeinu Chanal says, Va'achlum. Look over here, a couple lines down on the side, and Rabbeinu Chanal, 10 lines down, Va'achlum. They ate it. Other Rishonim, like the Meiri say, they did not eat it. They just makriv it. They put it on a skewer, they roasted it like they roasted the rest of the Korban Pesach, but not on a Mizbeach, and they didn't get to eat it. They just gave it to Hashem. It's amazing if you think about it, that even if they were in Memche Shari Tumah, they were the lowest of the low, the lowest low of the low Jew, could still bring a carbon to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and be makriv things. Omer le Abaya, Uman le Void. Atonor of Yosef, Gimel Mizbechois Hoyushom ala Mashkoif. There was, so to speak, the Chassam Sofer says, so to speak, others say that it's literal. Klal Yisrael threw the blood on the doorpost. That's a Mizbeach for Zrika. They were able to do the Zrika. Where? On the Mashkoif. Va'al shtei mezuzos. Mashkoif is the top part, the lentil, and the two posts that hold it up. That's all they had. There's nothing else but the mashkoif. So, I forgot who says this, but it says that the mashkoif, the mizbeach is there to remind the Kadosh Baruch Hu of the toiv of Klal Yisroel, and the mashkoif represents the avos. I hope I'm saying this correctly. And somehow the top part is Torah, and the two sides are avoid and gemilas chasadim. And this corresponds, somebody, Ari Weinstein, I always constantly mention him because he's from Farakwe, a big Talmid Chacham. He's a balabas, I think, but he learns a lot, he gives shiurim, and he always sends me geshmaka stuff. And he sent me this shiur from Ramosha Brown. I listened to the whole thing, it was beautiful shiur on Torah. And he just sent it to me, and I think it fits in beautifully here. He says, why is it that mitzvahs, you're not supposed to do mitzvahs all day long. You're not supposed to take a lulav and go like this, or even chesed, you're not supposed to do all day long. You're supposed to do all day long is learn Torah all day long. What's the difference between Torah and chesed? Did anybody ever explain it to anyone? And he said, finally, after there's a whole shmooze, but he said that it's a mashal of like having a cup, and then you fill it up with oil, and you fill it up with a wick, and then you burn the wick. Mitzvahs make your body available to receive the Torah with your shamayim and purity. So that's basically it. It's a whole long shmooze, but the two side posts, they hold up the Torah. When you do mitzvahs, you do chesed. Besides, if you're Mordechai Ashkenazi, you do chesed all day long. But he also learns, right? You do mitzvahs so that you could learn Torah, which is, according to everybody, the number one mitzvah. But how does it work? The mitzvahs are there to make you zakoch and purified for the Torah. Shtei mezuzos, and there's a mashkev on top. Zog the heilige Mishnah. Mabim Pesach Mitzrayim, the Pesach Doros. The official Mishnah, sponsored by Official from Official Catering. Mabim Pesach Mitzrayim, the Pesach Doros. What is the difference between the first carbon Pesach the Klal Yisroel brought in Mitzrayim to the Pesach that we bring throughout the generations in Amir Hashem in a month? Pesach Mitzrayim, it's mamish a month, right? 14th. Pesach Mitzrayim Mikchai Miba'asar. Torah says, so Mikchai over here doesn't mean to purchase. Mikchai means to designate, to set aside. The Korban Pesach, it had to be set aside 4 days earlier. 3 plus the little bit of that day. V'ton hazah ba'agudas ezoiv. I I forgot to bring the Azov, but you know what it is, the hyssop. You take the hyssop, you dip it in, and you sprinkle the blood on the door. That's a one-time thing by the carbon of Mitzrayim. And you eat it very, very quickly. The Chassam Sofer says that although today we don't have this mitzvah of eating it b'chipazon, but he says the nisoyin is mechiach. Every Pesach Seder, especially by him, it's known that he had a beautiful Seder and he was saying Divrei Torah. The nisoyin, at the last minute, you're always rushing to get to you eat up the afikoymen and Cholei Yisrael. V'nechal b'chipazon b'layla echad. One night, and we're going to see the Gemara, what this means, what it's going. So if we could just recall these words, V'necha b'chipazim b'layla echad, one night, V'upesach doirois, the carbon Pesach of the generations, noyeg kol shiva. Now, it cannot mean what it literally says, that you bring a carbon Pesach every single day, because we know that you only bring the carbon Pesach Erev Pesach. So what exactly does it mean? So that we'll see the Gemara. Minolan. D'chsiv dabro el kol adas Yisrael leimo ba'asar lachodesh hazeh v'yikchu. Hazeh. There's only 1 year that you have to designate the Karban Pesach 4 days earlier, and that is the first carbon in history. The first, as they were leaving Mitzrayim, ba'asar lachodesh hazeh, in the 10th day, hazeh, zeh mikchoy me ba'asar. So this is going to throw us into the sugya, a very, very simple sugya. It's like one-liners, the entire sugya, 2-liners. This word hazeh, it's going to be mentioned 8 times probably within the parsha of Karban Pesach. Over here it says hazeh comes to be mimayit, only that year. What do we do with all the hazehs that we have? Hazeh, that you have to eat it raw, hazeh, all these halachas that we had. You can't break a bone. Hazeh, what is only the first Pesach, or applies to all the Pesachim? Elameata. V'ayolachem l'mishmeres. This one is a little bit longer than the usual. Elameata v'ayolachem l'mishmeres. Mishmeres over here means they have to watch and examine the animal. Where's could I have my goat, please? I forgot to get my goat. It's on the fridge. Not in the fridge, on the fridge. He's still alive. Yeah. So here we go. Here's one of the 8, 9. I didn't count, but it's a lot. Here's the first hazeh. It says that you should examine the animal hazeh. Only this one, the first Karban Pesach. Nothing else needs to be examined. But Tanya, I don't know if we could sing this because it's a tainus today. Ben bagbag oimer. So what?
Just like you don't understand that song.
Or, if it's a good thing David's not here. He would start singing it. Yeah. Anyways, did you ever wonder what Ben Bagbag is? Why is his name Ben Bagbag? His name should be Bag. What's Bagbag? It's a funny name.
Bag's also funny.
Bag is a funny name, but Bagbag is double as funny. So Taisus and Chagiga says that Bag is Beis Gimel. It stands for hay. It's 5, hay. Because Ben Bagbag was a ger, and he's the son of Bag and Bag, Sarah and Avram, hay and hay. Or Ben Ger and Ben Gioris. It's just Ben Ger, that's his name. If you're just wondering where this came from. Do not call your kid Bag. Chaim Kanievsky probably would not like it. What?
Bug in Russian is Hashem, is God.
You can't do hay. I just thought about it. You can't do hay. Hay is not it's Hashem's name maybe, so they... Bar Hey. Who's that?
There's another one.
Yeah,
Is it the same reason?
Maybe he already took the name. It's already taken. Ben Bagbag Oimer. Minayin l'tomid shetom bikur R Binyomin koden shchita. The tomid that you bring every single day, which is what? What kind of carbon is a tomid? The remembers it's a oila. Shetom bikur R Binyomin koden shchita. How do you know you have to examine it 4 days? Mama's examine here. We got it. Once we got it, you got to examine. You flip it over. You make sure it doesn't have any mumim. Its ear got damaged in transit. Do not put a goat in a suitcase if you want to bring it as a Korban Pesach. It could damage its ear. That's the yosher. Nobody thought that was funny. Okay. Tainus Esther.
Nobody wants to bring a coat.
Big Tishmeru. You have to do a shmira. You have to examine it. We say in every day, Tishmeru. Now you know what it means. Tishmeru. What does Tishmeru mean? Not that you should have a security guard there. You have to make sure that it's not doesn't have a mum. And by Pesach of the Mitzrayim, the first Pesach, it says, same word, Tishmur Mishmeres. Watch it. Make sure it doesn't have a mum. Adar ba'asar. Malal and Tom, Bikur R Binyomin. How long is it? 4 days. Koidim Shchita Afkan Tom, Bikur R Binyomin, Koidim Shchita. There's two things going on here. There's Bikur, examining it, and there's designating it. One is not related to the other. I could examine an animal from today to tomorrow. I could have 20 of these and examine all of them and then pick one out at the end. But that's not a designation. Designation is, this animal is my Korban Pesach. Just like this guy. Everybody knows, there's nothing else. This one, I might have 100 other ones. This is my Korban Pesach. Sorry. But the problem with this goat is that these little pieces are getting into my mouth. It's not very good. Okay. Did I just, I need a mask. That's true. Fine. Says the Gemara, but at the end of the day, you said there's a miyut. Only this Korban Pesach. You see, Korban Tamid also needs 4 days of examination. Shani also on the Siv Tishmeru, you're right. That's a special thing by Korban Tamid. It says the word Tishmeru, so we have Exer Shava. Okay, but not a Korban Shlamim, not a Chatas, not a Asham. A Tamid. Upesach Doris Nami, Yoksiv, Avatus Avodah Azois, Bachoidish Hazeh, Shu Kol Avodah Choidish Zeh, Kozeh. They should be equal. Like the Korban Pesach, the Korban Mitzrayim. Elo, Ahu Hazeh, Lemutty Pesach Sheni, the Kavosei. Enochanami, says the Gemara. I have to examine every single generation, every year, I have to examine my Korban Pesach for how long? For 4 days. And also, a Korban Tamid. So, but it says Hazeh. Only this one, to exclude a Pesach Sheni. It does come to exclude something, but Pesach Sheni. Okay, next, here goes. Easy, one after another. Elamata, D'chsiv, v'achlus habasar b'layla hazeh. It says, eat the meat this night, when you leave Mitzrayim, only now. We know that Korban Pesach, all Korbanos Pesach are Pesachim, are that night, the night of Pesach. What? This halacha doesn't apply to Doros. That's it. This is going to be the answer for all questions. Va'avata. It says va'avata. It's a hekesh. You do the avodah like the first one, and in other words, you cannot eat the Korban Pesach more than one night. Ela hazeh lamali. So, but there's an exclusion. Only hazeh. Only the one that came out of Mitzrayim. Look at Elazar ben Azariah, Bekiva, the Machloikis. We had a number of times. We mentioned it at least. It's later on in the Masechta, but until what point can you eat the Korban Pesach? Machloikis. Is it until Chatzos? Or like Rabbi Kiva says, Delilah. Okay, so that's what it comes to say, Hazeh. They learn it out from the word Hazeh. Elamata. If a person doesn't have a bris milah, why doesn't he have a bris milah? Says Rashi, even in a case where he's not a Rasha, he just can't. Medically speaking, he can't because his brothers died. He cannot eat a Korban Pesach. What? So a guy that doesn't have a bris milah could eat the Korban Pesach in future generations? It says Hazeh. It's a miyut. Boy. Sorry, boy. Again, it comes to include. It's like the first Pesach. Our Pesach today is like the first Pesach of Mitzrayim, that an oral cannot eat. But there's a miyut. You hear this? It's an amazing chiddush. A guy doesn't have a bris milah, it's also for him to eat the Pesach. He's chayiv and matzah. But they're connected. Pesach matzah marar. Pesach not. Matzah yes. Real quickly, because we're talking about Purim, and we're talking about an oral. There's an unbelievable mice. I haven't mentioned the Vilna Gaon in a long time. The Vilna Gaon. And if you don't like the story, you don't think it's true, think about, do they say the story about other G'daylim, about the Chofetz Chaim? They don't, because the story fits in right with the Gaon. They asked the Gaon's grandchild, the Rav came over to him and said, why is the Gaon so special? Well, give me a reason. Like, well, everybody talks, the Vilna Gaon. As we know even today, the Chofetz Chaim, the Chazon Ish, they all regarded him as the top in the last 400 years, maybe even more. So he said, I'll tell you why. When he was 3 years old, they asked the Vilna Gaon, it says in Megillah Nikras, Yedalit, Zvav, the whole thing, like Pachais v'lo. It says, no, Eser, Chaser, there's different days you can read it, like Pachais v'lo. So how come in Masechta Shabbos, in Daf Kuf Lamed Zayin, when it says, when you could do a bris milah, Ches, Tes, Yud, Yud Aleph, depends, Yom Kippur, this, that, like Pachais v'lo. Why doesn't it say like Pachais v'lo over there? It says the same amount of days, and it doesn't say like Pachais v'lo. So Rav says, okay, I'll answer you. And he started giving different answers. No, that's not the answer. The Vilna Gaon was 3 years old, so he said a better answer than you. He was going crazy. So, I'll tell you the answer. The answer is, it does say it. It says, like, Pachas v'layais in Shabbos. Okay. But the Vilna Gaon knew it by Baal Peh. It's a true story. If it's happened at 3, there's a lot of stories like that about him. Anyway. Says, it's Purim Torah.
They've said that story about you, Eli.
No, because I can't remember what I learned yesterday. Forget about... I don't remember. I know that I said the story in Masechet Shabbos Daf Kuf Lamed Zayin. I forgot that I mentioned the Vilna Gaon yesterday in Shir.
I was like, I didn't mention
I don't remember that. When did I mention him? When?
What are you talking about? Every day, 3 times.
No, because you specifically said something about him.
I don't remember. To me, I didn't mention him. I'm serious. In my head, I didn't mention him 3 months.
More than a Chabad, said the guy.
I do not mention more than Chabadsker mentions the Rebbe. It's impossible. They start off and end with the Rebbe. Ayin and Arim Merkaz, every shtickle Torah that a Lubavitcher says, it'll mention the beginning. Fine. Elameyato v'chol beneichar lo yochal boy. Beneichar is referring to somebody that goes off the derech, specifically Avodah Zarah. He's not allowed to eat a Korban Pesach. It says boy, miyut, but it's on that first Pesach. He could eat a guy that's off the derech could eat a Korban Pesach every year. So why do you need the miyut? Boy, hamar is das b'selas, ben hamar is das b'selas b'truma. If a kohen is off the derech, he does a little avodah zarah, he's allowed to eat truma, big chiddush. I need the 2 things: a guy that doesn't have bris and a guy that's shtickle off. It's disgusting. As Dr. Factor, I was Lzaicher once. It's mamish. I didn't look, but I peeked a little bit. It was a little disgusting. Ava ben eichor leimois, ema loy tzricha. V'yesh mi ben eichor mishum dein liva shemayim. A ben eichor, this guy is a shtickle off the derech. He's off the derech. He's not eating. He's off there. Why is he eating Korban Pesach? Stop for all I know. Laurel, the guy Nebuch, he can't have a bris milah because of a medical condition. The liva shemayim. He wants to eat it. He wants to be becoming the mitzvah. Emeloi shouldn't apply. He should be able to. Rashi's not going to this whole thing, but we can read it anyway. These new guys that come in and kind of a few mitzvahs. The boy who again, what he could eat. A Taish B'Sachar could eat every year, and it says boy. Okay, we take the word of avata. Why do we need it? Rashi doesn't like it because of this line. A Taish B'Sachar, what does it have to do with him going off the derech? He's starting to become a ger. Vein Amar is das b'selas b'truma. Truma. Elo me'ata. Umalta oisay oz yoichal boy. You have to perform a milah, then you could get to eat. Hachanami the boy ein oichel aval oichel b'pesach dairais. What this halacha doesn't apply for future generations. It does apply for all generations. So why is there a miyot? Lamali. If a person doesn't do a bris milah to his own son, he could still continue to eat truma, but he cannot eat. That was an amazing halacha. If his son doesn't have a bris milah, he himself cannot eat a Korban Pesach. You cannot break a bone, referring to the first Pesach ever. You're allowed to break a bone. All psach. It does apply for all generations. Elameyato, Taish B'Sachar, what does it have to do with him going off the derech? He's starting to become a ger. Vein Amar is das b'selas b'truma. Truma. Elo me'ata. Umalta oisay oz yoichal boy. You have to perform a milah, then you could get to eat. Hachanami the boy ein oichel aval oichel b'pesach dairais. What this halacha doesn't apply for future generations. No, it applies to all generations. So why is there an exclusion? By bekosher v'loy bepasul. If the Karban Pesach is completely pasul, you cannot, something happened to you, found the mum, let's say. So it doesn't apply. If you break the bone, you're not over. No. What? The issur of eating raw Karban Pesach is only the first year, but all other years you're allowed to. Applies to all years. Nu, which is a miut, lamali. Look at the Rabbah, R Yitzchok. The Rabbah has Gzeir Shava. The Rabbah R Yitzchok has Gzeir Shava that an oral is not allowed to eat meiser sheni. From this word, that's how he learns it. Meiser sheni, somebody that doesn't have bris milah cannot eat. V'necha b'chipazon says the Mishnah, you eat the Karban Pesach. The first one was eaten really quickly. Min alan. They rushed it. It was only that generation, that year. It's a very interesting lashon. What is this talking about? What do you mean that in the generations to come, the 7 days of Pesach? What? You can't bring a Karban Pesach more than one day. It's not even on Pesach, it's Erev Pesach. So what's the 7 days for? Eli Pesach, Pesach go shiva mi'ika. You just turn to Daf Amud Beis, Patzbe Kesher Nafshi. Tzadik Vav Amud Beis, kesher-nafshi.org. Schus for the struggling kids in pain of Klal Yisroel, and for the Refuah Shelayma of all Cholei Yisrael, including Mutty Grunberg's daughter, right? Granddaughter. And all the Chaylim, and Dr. Joey's wife, especially our MDY family. Please consider joining MDY Tehillim group at tehillim.8mindaf.com. Elo! Achametz, what are you going to say? 7 days of chametz? Beklal, depends on Mitzrayim, Laila Echad, Vesulai. So now you have to go back to the Mishnah for a second. Look what it says in the Mishnah. To understand this question, we have to see the words in the Mishnah. I'll read it for you if you don't want to turn the page. It says, V'necha b'chipazon b'layla echad. It says, in one night, u'pesach daris, no called Shiva. If the Pesach, all generations, has 7 days of chametz, it's a continuation of the first Pesach. There was only one night of chametz, and all years is 7 days of chametz, of non-chametz. You can't have chametz 7 days, and in the first year you can only not have chametz the first night. What about the first day? What about the 24 hours? That's the problem, because it says Belayla Echad, and a second later it says Pesach Dar is now called Shiva. Pesach. It's a continuation of Belayla. Miklal de Pesach Mitzrayim Layla Echad. It's only one night. V'sulay. V'tanya Rabbi Yossi Aglili Oimer Minayla Pesach Mitzrayim Shein Chimutz Yinoig Elo Yoim Echad. It's 24 hours. The first Pesach ever, they had chametz for one full day, but not a night, not 12 hours. It was 24 hours. It's a full day. So the way you have to read the Mishnah is Pesach Mitzrayim was a chipazon, is very, very quick, and one night. When do you eat the Karban Pesach? One night. And all generations to come, one night. Now, once I mentioned the word, and all generations, now I'm going to tell you halacha about all generations. All generations have chametz for 7 days. So that would tell me all generations have chametz for 7 days, but not the first Pesach. So it's not like we're missing words. I'm telling you a statement. I mentioned all generations, so I'm going to tell you a halacha about all generations. All generations have 7 days of chametz. Meaning, la fuke, I'm telling you that all generations have, to tell you that there's something that never had 7 days, and that is, use your own seichel. The first Pesach didn't have 7 days. What did it have? It had 24 hours. What? No, I'm just saying my own little shot here. How it flows. Because in the beginning I was thinking to myself, it's chasur mechsur. Like, it's missing a word. But then I realized there is a flow here. We're talking about the first Pesach, and then we said, and all generations also eat the Karban Pesach one night. Now, once I mentioned all generations, I'm going to tell you halacha about all generations. Here, look inside. And so too, this is the chizur mechsur. There is a chizur right here. Is a chizur mechsur. and all generations also, b'laylecha, the eating part. Now, once I'm talking about all generations, there's another halacha that applies only to all generations, which is the chametz of 7 days. The first Pesach only had chametz, isur chametz for 1 day. It's like I'm learning a little different than what it says in the Gemara, because the Gemara says the first Pesach is chametz. I think it flows a little nicer like that. Fine. Yeah? Okay. I did not see that. You're saying Noam says that the Achronim are discussing if this is a concept of Chesur Mechzer or not. But Chesur Mechzer doesn't really mean that we have to insert. We always say, it doesn't mean that you insert words. You have to insert it in your head as you're reading it. You don't understand what the Mishnah is saying, but it's okay. Says the Mishnah. Omer Rabbi Yeshua. Says Rabbi Yeshua, the official Mishnah sponsored by official. You see, it's catching on. The sponsorship part is not catching on, but the oil is catching on. That the Mishnah is the official Mishnah sponsored by official from official catering. Omar Rabbi Yeshua, Shamati shetmuras Pesach kreva, utmuras Pesach eino kreva ve'ein li lefarish. What is going on here? This fat guy is a tumura. What's the tumura? I bring a carbon Pesach. I designate a carbon Pesach. This is my guy. This is pretty fat. So I designate this guy. Now, if I say, I find another one in my barn, much nicer, bigger, geschmack, the whole thing kosher, so I say that should be instead of. So that's an Isser D'Oraisa. I'm not going to say the bigger, better one is instead of this, because once I designate this, I'm stuck with him forever. And if I say this bigger guy is a Tumura, so what happens is I get an Isser, but I also suffer a little bit of a consequence. This becomes exactly identical to this. And I shut both of them. I lost. I lose out. What's going on here is as follows. Sometimes I bring this as a carbon, sometimes I don't. Ve'ein li lefarish, says Rabbi Yeshua, I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember. Very interesting. It's brought down in the Mishnah that Rabbi Yeshua admits, I don't remember. It's not a big deal. You don't remember, you don't remember. Omer Rabbi Kiva, who's Rabbi Kiva compared to Rabbi Yeshua? His Talmud. Says Rabbi Kiva, Ani Farish. Let me explain it to you. HaPesach shenimtza koydem shchitas HaPesach yirat yistoy v'yimocher. Okay, real quickly. What happens is, this guy is, you see, there's a 1 here. This is my original. We'll call him original Pesach. He ran away. So I go ahead and I designate another one. Did I do something wrong? Absolutely not. He ran away. I need to bring another Karban Pesach. So there's a number 2 guy. He's the second one. Now, there's 2 options. If this guy shows up, we discussed him, he's called a moisar. He's extra. If I bring this as a carbon, this guy is a moisar. Now, there's 2 things that could happen here. Either he's a moisar. This is not mutter. Gary, because in the new computer, I don't have nekudas yet. So I really wanted to put nekudas, I couldn't get to them. Moisar? Moisar, you're going to the cops. Moisar! Not spelled the same way. Fine. Huh? Yeah. This is Amarit's way to spell Moisar. So, Moisar like with a samach, yeah. And then there's Dachui. Dachui means that this guy became available. He was available. I found him before the time to shech the carbon Pesach, so I should have brought him, because he's the original. But I didn't bring him, so he becomes Dachui. He's pushed off. That's very bad. Because now if he's pushed off, and I make a Tmura to a pushed off guy, so the Tmura is identical to him. So he's pushed off. He cannot be brought as a carbon. But if I bring a Moisar, if I bring a Tmura, instead of a good guy, then I could bring him as a carbon. Depending what status this guy has, the status goes to the Tmura. Says Rebbe Kiva, Ani Farish, let me explain. It's 55, wow. If the carbon Pesach, this guy, number 1 was found before 2, Yirachi Stoev, and then I shechted 2 when I wasn't supposed to. So what do? Yirachi Stoev. 1 has to go graze until it befalls a mum, Once it has a mum, I sell it and I take the money and I buy a shlamim with it. So therefore, this guy is identical to his master, so to speak. So I don't shecht him. I need to sell him. It needs to befall a mum. I put both of them to let them graze. And Shalom Yisrael, who sent me a video yesterday, a clip of they found a sheep. I guess they have these wild sheep like in New Zealand or something. A sheep that they didn't shear its wool for 2 years. It was insane. 37 pounds. Who sent it to me? Somebody, I forgot who it was. It was like crazy. And they shear it. It became like a third of the size. So that you could have a mum like that. You just let him go, and he has a mum. That's not that that's a mum, but bad things could happen to him when he goes out there. But what if this guy shows up? 1, Shalom Aleichem, here I am. Guess what? We already brought a carbon Pesach. 2 was the Pesach. So nothing wrong. I didn't push him off. He's not a dachui. So what is he called? The green. There's a green light. He's a moiser. He's the extra. Extra I could put on the mizbeach. Karv shlamim. But what does he flip into? He can't be carbon Pesach because I already brought 2 as a Pesach. So what does he become? 1 becomes a shlamim. So does Tmura become a shlamim. Ask the Gemara a bomb question. So then why? Reb Shua says I forgot. But what did he forget? This Tmura thing. Allah about Tmura. There's a more important halacha. Step 1. What do I do with this guy? The actual carbon Pesach when he shows up. Do I bring him as a carbon? Do I not bring him as a carbon? Once I know that halacha, I could apply it to Tmura. But why is Rabbi Shua focusing on Mr. Tmura when he should be focusing on Mr. Pesach? Hakamashmon. Digim Tmura sa Pesach the look karva. Wow. Big chiddush here. Don't say that since he's not, we could say, l'chayra, he didn't become a Tmura. He didn't become a Tmura. Look at this. He's pushed off. So he didn't become a Tmura at all. What should he become? He should become a shlamim. Look at this guy. Number 1, showed up on time. I could have brought him as a carbon, but the owner made a big boo-boo, and he shechted number 2. And then I go ahead and I do Tmura, say the Tmura is not chal at all. You can't make Tmura for a really bad guy, a dachui. So it should become a Mr. Shlamim. No. It is chal. It's chal in a bad way. As a dachui, and memela I can't bring it as a carbon, I have to let it graze and befall a mum. Itmar. Rabba Omar. Now, in just describing what Rabbi Akiva said, if you look at the words, Ani Efarish, HaPesach shenimtza kodim shchitas HaPesach, he says. If I find this carbon Pesach before the shchita, says Rabba, wait a minute. There's machlokes here. What Rabbi Akiva meant by the word shchita? Rabba Omar kodim shchita ulach shchita sheninim. I'm going to take my Rebbe's words literally. And it means shchita. If I find it before I shecht this particular animal, when can I do shchita? From Chatzois on. But I did shchita at 2:30. So I have until 2:30 to find my carbon. Then it becomes dachar or not. That's the cutoff point. No, we're talking about the general shchita of Klal Yisroel, not your particular shchita at 2:30, 12 o'clock, whenever noon is. Well, what is he going to do with the word? Rabbi Akiva says shchita. He doesn't say the general shchita. That's how you have to explain it. The time of shchita. And there's exact machloikes. It's not about shchita and not shchita. It's about the time of the day. Mamish word for word, as we just said. This is, says Rava, when did you find this guy? If you found your original after shchita, you already took this on the mizbeach. So now, what is he? He's a moiser. He's not a dachi. He's a moiser because you found him when it was too late. And then you made a tmura. So then, of course, if he came on time and you made a tmura, this is dachui. Why is this dachui? Because he came on time, you shechted this, then you made a tmura to something that was already pushed off from the mizbeach. You don't bring it on the mizbeach. Yirat shista. Im kesev. It says in the pasuk im kesev. If there's a sheep, matam uloymar im kesev. LeRabbi's tmuras haPesach achar haPesach shekrev shlamim. Hey chidami, what's this case that if I have a tumor, after I brought already my Korban Pesach, then it becomes a shlamim. Hey chidami, I found one after I already shechted two. What's that? That's a beautiful case. Of course, the tmura is going to be like the original because it's not a dachi, it's a moisar, because he didn't do anything wrong. He shechted two when he was supposed to shech two. All of a sudden, this guy shows up. So, of course, I could bring this as a shlamim. What's the chiddush here? No, it's not like Rava. Otherwise, there's no chiddush. Says Gemara, there's no chiddush, right? You're right. There is no chiddush. The pasuk is just there as support to this halacha. But at the end of the day, okay, it's there for support. But why did the Torah really write it? It's a great support. But why say a whole pasuk? Amazing. I don't know if you remember, all the way in the beginning of Masechta, there was a story. Rabbi Yehuda was very good. Rabbi Yehuda was told, a guy came to him and said, I eat from the Korban Pesach. So he said, well, go back to the Beis HaMikdash and say you want a piece of the tail. That's the best of the best, because the guy told him, I get the best piece. He goes back to the Beis HaMikdash and says, give me the tail. They said, we don't give tail. Tail goes on the Mizbeach. And he said, well, Rabbi Yehuda ben Seir told me. And they took him and they chopped off his head or whatever they did to him. And then they said, At the tzivin, v'mutzadascha prusa b'Yerushalayim. Anyway, but you see from there that the tail of a sheep goes on the Mizbeach. Kishu oimerim kesev l'rabbi's Pesach shover shnasoi u'shlamim habayim machmas Pesach l'chol mitzvah shlamim. That what? It's identical. Shaton, smicha, you have to lean, look, like this, with all your might on the head. Unisachim, and you have to pour the wine. Utnu vaschazav ishoik, you have to shake it like a lulav, in all four directions. That's how we know lulav, from the tnufa. Ukshu oimer v'meiz, that's the kshayla. Why does the Torah repeat 5 psukim on this goat? It's identical to the sheep. You know why? For one thing, to tell us that this does not go on the Mizbeach. This tail doesn't count. The sheep, I don't know if you saw, we had pictures back in the day, they have sheep till this very day, and it seems like in those days also, or maybe they made a genetic variation, but the tail of a sheep usually drags on the floor even, and they have pictures of it on a wagon. We had a whole Gemara about it. There's a lot of fat in it, so it's only the tail of the sheep, not so much today the sheep that we're familiar with. But a goat doesn't have a tail that goes on the Mizbeach. Why is there 5 extra psukim for this one halacha to say that the goat's tail does not go on the Mizbeach? Have a wonderful day, a meaningful fast. Shir hamalois. Shir hamalois. Adonai shemo b'koili, Adonai tishmo ya, Adonai miyamoy. Slicha. Adonai $78 pounds of fleece. What happened? It got lost?
It's a very special sheep that grows a lot of very soft fur. And
it got lost? Or I know, they said they're going to let it loose.
No, it got lost. Oh. For 78 pounds. And they found it 2 years later.
2 years later. Reb Hershey leader, Shalom Aleichem, Reb Hershey. Reb Hershey, good morning. Wow. Rabbi Isai, I have to make an announcement to Bismedrish. We have Issi Ben Zaken on Zoom. It's a big day. He's covering his face. I'm telling you, a Maisa Shoy Issi. I thought about you today, this morning, and yesterday. I can't hear you. What about yesterday? What? Isi ben Yehuda? Isi ben Yehuda? What? That's your father's name? Isi. Okay, Isi. You're lucky your father didn't call you Ben Bagbag. Why? Issy, you told me it's going to take you a week, 2 weeks. Don't catch up. Just jump into it. Yeah. Veilig and Purim, Shkoyach Issy, it's great to see you. Come back soon. We miss you. What are you saying, Shlomi? Shkoyach. Right. No, just continue the next word. Einach. Arichos yamim vishanim. What does vishanim mean? What does yamim mean? Shanim is literal years. Yamim means the accomplishment. Lzaicher. I don't know. Who's talking? Shmuel Eliwatt. Eli Deichman, what are you doing up so late?
Tomorrow's going to be a challenge.
What, in your shul? Your shul does the whole thing? Remember, Eli, that's when it all started. The parties in New York. That's when the whole COVID hit the frum world. I said, hey, you can't chop me off in the middle. You're like the bad media. I said in the frum oilam. That's what I said. The frum oilam.